Now that we have completely let down the spring, we have to remove the spring from the wheel. And the way the wheel is attached to the spring is that we have this arbor here. Here's the winding part where we will put our key, and here is the spring, and there's a hole that fits right onto this pin. So we want to dislodge the mainspring from this pin to remove it from the arbor. So that's what we're going to do now. So turn the spring over to this side, and down in there is where the pin is, and we're going to dislodge that. Sometimes it'll come off real easy by hand, and sometimes it needs a little work. What you want to do is you want to take a screwdriver that has a narrow head, because using the wide head would be overkill. Reach down in there and pry it apart a little bit, and then try to remove it by hand. And there it comes right off. That came off pretty easily. And here you can see a close-up view of that pin right there, and that's what hooked onto the mainspring. So what we're going to be doing in this demonstration is we got our arbor to our mainspring wheel right there, and we're going to connect the hole that's in the mainspring onto that pin and wind it back up. Take out the mainspring out of the bag. Now, one thing that we might need to do, I'm going to give you a close-up of this. Let's see if we can see that. It's kind of hard to see, but that hole in there where the mainspring arbor is going to go in is pretty tight. We're going to need to take the screwdriver, a finely pointed screwdriver, and kind of see, I guess to better demonstrate it, it's wound pretty tight inside like this, so we want to use the screwdriver to pry it open a little bit so that our pin will catch on to the hole in the mainspring. So I'm just going to press down to give it some little separation down there so we can have it connect on real easily. There. Alright. As you can see, it's set well into the holes into the arbor pin, and we're all back together. Now we need to do that on the other one, and then we'll be ready to put our movement back together. Before we go on to the next segment, there's one thing I did want to clarify from the last item we saw in the tape, and that's regarding using the screwdriver and prying the mainspring apart. Basically what I'm doing is the mainspring towards the center is wound very tight, one overlapping the other, and what I'm trying to do is cause a little bit of separation between the very end where the hole is and the next layer that wraps around, so that there's enough space between those two to allow the pin to go into the hole. So that's what I was trying to demonstrate, in case that wasn't real clear. So I'm demonstrating with this example here. And you can see that I'm using a screwdriver that has a tip that's very narrow, because you're talking about a very tight area and you just want to pry a little bit of space.